All right, let's get into modeling the screw slide block and the pin slide block. These two parts are very similar, where the pin slide block has a 0.2 radius fillet on the slider, and they have different holes. The pin is made to accept that 5mm pin, and the screw block is meant for the machine screw. Of course, this is after going through the activity of sketching our multi-views and coming up with our own measurements and having a discussion and comparing and finding out what type of systematic error we had with 3D printing for this hypothetical situation. And these are the measurements we then want to use for the hardware we have and how our printers are calibrated. So if that calibration changes, then these numbers might have to be tweaked. Okay, so starting off with modeling these parts, let's go ahead and start off by saving in our Trammel Project folder the screw slider or the screw slide block. So we'll go ahead and save that. And then we can do a sketch just on the XY plane. And instead of using a 2-point rectangle, I want to do a center point rectangle. So I'll click at the origin to create my rectangle, and of course I need a width of 0.55 inches. Hit the tab key and a height of 1.4 inches. Okay, so that's fully constrained. I can hit E to extrude 0.27 inches. Then we'll do a sketch on that top surface. Now this time make sure you get the top surface and not one of those origin planes. So we want the top surface. We'll again do a center point rectangle, and size being 0.34 by 1.4. E to extrude, and you could either do the math or let Fusion do the math. 0.55 minus 0.27, which of course would be a 0.28. Okay, so there's the screw slide block, basically shaped out. Let's go ahead and add a chamfer to the four corners. Might need to rotate this around and look at that side, and that chamfer needs to be 0.105. So that makes that chamfer perfectly merge with the square rectangle on the edge. Go ahead and say OK. And then this needs a tapped hole. So I'm first going to select this face, and I'm going to select tapped instead of a simple hole. And right now that's saying it wants a 1/4 inch. I need a size 8. So I'm going to find size 832. And distance, I want to drill through all. Now if I also kind of shift over and look at the top view, this is why I did that center point rectangle, because it allows me just to kind of snap the center point for the hole right into the origin, so it's in perfect alignment without any additional dimensions needed. So now I can say OK, and there's my basic shape for the screw slide block. So I'll go ahead and make sure I save that. I could go through the process. I still need to put my 0.4mm chamfers on there. I could model the pin slide block separately, but see, it's the same shape. So let's go ahead and do a save as, and now name this as pin slide block. Of course, it's now creating a second copy, and this is the one that's now active, is the pin slide block. I still have all my design history here. So first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and edit the hole. So I do not want the hole to go through. I want the hole to be a distance of 0.45 inches. And it's a simple hole, should be a flat bottom. And I want the diameter to be 5.05 millimeters. Okay, so that is the one metric size we have on this. So I'll go ahead and say OK to that. Okay, so now I've modified that. Let's add the two edges that get the 0.2 radius fillet. So just like that, we have the basic shape, and the only thing left to do is to add the chamfer. So we'll go ahead and pick, let's pick those four corners, and I need those fillet edges as well. And then Fusion has a feature where I can just pick the faces. So I'm going to pick the top face and the bottom face, and that needs to be 0.4 millimeter. And the purpose of those chamfers is just to make it so that there are no sharp edges due to over extrusion or sometimes the wonky corners you get when you're 3D printing something. So that will help and keep this Trammel toy functioning. Okay, we'll go ahead and save it, say OK. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the screw slide block and add some chamfers. I can't this time pick the faces because then that's going to cause an issue. But you'll notice sometimes I can go down and grab the edges there. And we probably also want the outside edges on that slider just to ease that slightly in case there's any issues. And then I cannot pick the face because if I do, it's going to want to put a chamfer on the screw hole, and that chamfer size is going to interfere with the screw hole and actually cause an error. It won't do it. The screw hole by nature already has a little chamfer on it to help ease the edge. So I think 0.4 millimeters, and let's see, that I think that probably looks pretty good. Let's click home and just make sure I got all those. Yeah, looks good. Okay, so I'll go ahead and say OK to accept those changes. And finally, we probably should modify the material and the appearance. So under my physical material, I'm going to go ahead and go to my favorites, and we've already defined PLA as a custom material. So we're going to use PLA. If you did not do that, you could probably just use ABS plastic and it would be close enough. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that, and I'm going to make my sliders in appearance. I'm going to make it under paint, powder coat yellow. You can pick whatever color you want. But remember, we want it to be aesthetically pleasing and we want it to look good when we put it on a drawing. So there's my screw slide block. Let's go ahead and change my pin slider. Same way. Modify physical material, PLA, and modify appearance, yellow powder coat. Okay, so there's the sliders.